Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be looking at a very famous position that comes from the game Botvinnik Liublinsky. Now, I would recommend you to pause the video and come up with the way you would continue as black. So first and foremost, before you start thinking about a position, you should evaluate, right? Let's evaluate this. Black has a lot of weaknesses. A5 is weak, C5 is weak, C6 is weak. Meaning that if white kind of goes into an endgame, he's going to basically pile up on the C5 pawn like with a move like knight A4 and win it. And both rooks are on the D file, and after exchanges, white will get closer to an endgame. Black has two bishops, but they are very passive. So to avoid, any sort of exchanges on the D file, Black made this move rook to D4. Very strong move. This is the move that creates a lot of counterplay for Black. The point is that on a move like bishop takes D4, E takes D4 could happen, and all of a sudden this bishop is going to be very active, and White's king will be in a lot of trouble. And here, White reacted very badly. Now, this is a long-term positional sacrifice. The point being that it'll be after White captures, it will be very difficult for White to open up lines for his rooks, and then his rooks will be quite passive, and it'll be very difficult for White to find counterplay. However, White is not really in a rush to take this rook. In the game, the move knight to E2 was played. I think this is an awful move, possibly even the decisive mistake of the game, I dare to say. What White wanted was to take this rook with a knight, but as we all know, knights are the best blockaders. Maybe I analyzed this move knight to A4. The idea is that White is in no rush to take the rook, because if the rook moves, then there will be exchanges on the D file. And not to mention that the C5 pawn will be hanging. And at the correct moment, White could take the rook on D4. At the correct moment, he's in no rush to take it. Now, Black, by playing this move rook to D4, kind of stopped White's play. White needs to work around this rook. And Black can make this move bishop c8 with kind of the idea as in the game. The idea is that Black is striving for counterplay. The move knight to b2 and f5. Now, Black doesn't have to make the move f5. Black can make a move like king to g7 and ask White what he's doing. But then probably knight to d3 will come. But the point is that knight a4 is kind of the only chance. And I think White is probably better. The point is that on the move f5, White can now this is the correct moment to take the rook. And Black has two ways of taking it. And the move e takes, which looks nice, it opens up the bishop. White can make the move rook to e1. Concretely, this just doesn't work. Now, bishop f4 is possible to plant the bishop on e3. The point is that the move e takes f5, bishop e3. There's this rook takes e3 exchange sacrifice. Queen takes e3, queen f2. And on the move bishop f5, queen e3, pawn takes e3, and rook to e1. And White will win the pawn on e3, and he'll win the game. So because of this, Black's in some trouble here, and it wasn't really good that he took the other problem is that on the move queen takes f2, king takes f2, bishop takes f5, there's a move rook to e1. So, and then he has control of the e file, and there isn't really much that Black can do there. He's kind of without counterplay. So the other thing is that Black could probably take c takes d4. And then White plays knight to d3. So now you see the power. Now this knight is blockading the pawn on d3. And this knight can also help White get counterplay. The point is that now, if fe4, fe4, and I think this is very bad for Black because his bishops are quite passive here. The problem is that Black can make this move f4. And the point is that now g5 and g4 will come, trying to attack the white king. And now a3, g5 and b4. So now it's like a King's Indian. Both sides are playing on opposite sides, and black's trying to checkmate, but he's going to lose the whole queen side. However, with a knight on d3 blockading, it's very difficult to do that. For example, rook db1, queen g5, king h1. I mean, there are many ways how black can play this. Maybe a very strong computer could tell you more about the position. I mean, I'm just kind of analyzing it, but king h8, for example, I take on a5, and I had this nice idea of being counter-sacrificed with the move rook to b6, and black can make a move like queen h6 here. Whatever it is, I think white might even be winning even after this exchange sacrifice, but it's a very good sacrifice, and white needs to find this plan of knight a4, knight b2, knight d3. I am very surprised that white didn't go for this in the game, because it's very difficult. Of course, I'm just giving you some sample variations. It's difficult to calculate variations like that. I would say it's actually impossible, because there's so many ways how black can play. Black can play maybe bishop c8, then king g7, and some way prepare f5. But the point is that white is in no rush to capture the rook, and white's goal is to put the knight on d3, because the knight is the best blockader, and it could sometimes help with counterplay resources with the move a3 and b4. And also, another thing that the knight does is it controls the f4 square. So on the move, let's assume the knight were on d3 in this position, and the move bishop takes d4 were played. On the move e takes d4, black would not have an idea of playing like bishop f4 and bishop e3, because the bishop on e3 would be quite dangerous, as you will see. But knight e2 was played in the game, and this is an awful idea. The idea, white's idea, was definitely to take the rook with the knight, definitely, and this was definitely just totally wrong. Bishop c8 was played with the same idea of playing f5. So black played this move rook d4 with a counterplay idea of f5, just to try to mate the white king, basically. And here, I think white is in big trouble, actually. It's not easy to play. I have a suspicion. I have a suspicion that the best move is knight c3. Admitting the mistake. The problem is that black can make the move f5, and now black has a bunch of extra tempi, and maybe his attack will be more effective. I looked at this variation, and the tempi actually matter, because white needs to get counterplay quickly. I think this was still the best chance. I mean, the position is still quite unclear. I think that if white were to make the move knight a4 immediately, and knight b2 and knight d3, I think that white is definitely doing very well, maybe even winning, who knows. Because white is going to be quickly getting counterplay with a3 and b4 on the queen side. And black's kingside play is still kind of slow, and white has a very good piece, the knight on d3, a very good blockader, which stops a lot of black's ideas. However, let's just get back to the chase. I'm being way too theoretical, and this is what is called a long-term exchange sacrifice. I mean, in this position, for example, knight takes d4 was played, and now you can see on the move bishop f2, the pawn came to c5, and now it's very difficult to find a plan for white. It's interesting. I also analyzed the move. I wanted to kind of bring the knight onto d3 with the move bishop d4, and on the move e d4, knight c1, but with the idea of playing knight d3. However, black's just in time to get very good chances against the white king with the move bishop to e3, and knight d3, and then bishop e3 check, and the bishop on e3 is a monster. The white king is weak, and now black will open up lines against the white king. It's a very unclear position, but I would take black, of course. That's the other thing. The computer sometimes gives all of these exchange sacrifices as better, but it doesn't really understand the position. And that is why white got destroyed so easily. Now, a part of me wants to make the move like bishop to d2 with the idea of playing like a3 and b4 and trying to do something, but maybe black can just play bishop d6 against it, although a5 is weak. I think bishop d2 at least would have been a better move, just looking at it from here, but who knows? I mean, bishop f2 is understandable because, the queen could go to h4 maybe. Like he wants to maybe bring his bishop at least closer to his king, but it's so... the position is already terrible because after the move c5 with the idea of just stopping before, like, forever. Yeah, white is kind of busted. I don't really see any way how he could open up the files, because now, rooks belong in open files, but there's no way how white can open up the files. And he has, I don't really see a plan for him, and black has a simple plan of playing f5, and, creating some weaknesses, maybe f4, g5, g4, as I showed in, the other variations. That's why I like bishop d2 the most, because maybe on the move bishop d2, white can maybe play the move a3 and rook a b1 and try to get some sort of counterplay. If white gets counterplay, then, it always becomes a race. It's unclear, but I would still prefer black because the counterplay is very difficult to do. I mean, it's very difficult to get counterplay. And the thing is that black's attack is quite quick now. Well, white in this position had no idea about what to do. The c5 move was very good because it kind of stops the idea of b4 for white forever, and white cannot make the move c5, which could gain some space on the queen side. Rook f1. I guess he has no idea. I think he realizes the danger with the move f5. He wants to bring his rook in there, I guess, but f5 comes in. It's just not possible to defend these positions. I mean, what a brilliant exchange sacrifice by Botvinnik, right? It's quite standard. I mean, it's kind of the only move, because rook to d4, if not the move rook to d4, then black is just positionally losing. But I think Botvinnik's picture was very good. And, of course, you got to remember 1943 in this game. I mean, chess theory was not really developed, and Botvinnik was definitely a major contributor to it, or at least to chess in the 21st century. And we look at these games and we make moves like that. And as you can see, now black basically played f5, I think, and just f4, and now we get a King's Indian position, although the difference is that now white has no counterplay at all on the queen side, and black is basically going to play g4 and checkmate the white king. Not to mention that actually black could sometimes even make a pawn break a4. I mean, I was looking at some crazy ideas where the king runs to the queen side, but then black can make a move like a4. It'll be gone. Yeah, white was just desperate because he was just afraid of black's move g4 or h5 and g4, so he played g4 himself. I mean, Botvinnik really just handled this like a master. I mean, bishop h3, rook f2, h5, threatening h4. h4 anyway. Rook f8, bringing the other piece into the attack. Like in my previous video, we're always bringing in the last attacker. Rook to d3, rook f4, king h1, king h7, rook to g1, and now a move that I very much like, bishop to d8. The idea is to defend the g5 pawn. I mean, there are many ways that black can play this. I mean, white has no counterplay. Black's going to just, play around the white weaknesses. He'll eventually win. Queen e2, queen f7, okay, queen d1, queen h5. Eventually, white cracked, and black just won the game quite easily. And just this endgame is just so losing. I mean, in this position, white resigned. So, as you could see, this was quite a brilliant exchange sacrifice by the one and only Mikhail Botvinnik. The rook to d4 was a very good move because it stopped like a lot of the white play, and white needed to be very accurate. And the position's still unclear after the move knight a4, although of course it was quite strange because knight a4 is actually definitely the best move in that position. It's definitely the best move, and because white really needs to go quick into blockading the pawn with knight to d3. And it kind of becomes a race, but I think that, if white has counterplay, not only counterplay, I mean, an exchange is also good if he has open files and counterplay. One way or another, he should be able to win that position. Although not easy, who knows, it's a King's Indian position. Tactics always happen, especially, Botvinnik, great player, one of the greatest of all time. So if you have any other positions that you want me to show, any other games, etc., endgames, fortresses, please leave in the comments. All right? Thanks.